Grog.
Hey everyone, it's a Sideshow podcast with me, Keri Walvis, and no Matthew Weir. But Keri, you wanted to remember Matthew with the gift of music.
I did, yeah. There was a nice little link from what he recommended the other week, and I was like, I've never heard of them. Been listening to them all week now.
Okay, so you're a big Justice fan.
Yeah.
And coincidentally...
Good, isn't it?
Yeah, I think people will recognise that, won't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, big hit. I had no idea, and you know, I did feel that kind of instinctive sort of middle-aged grumpiness. More middle-aged news in a minute, but that instinctive middle-aged grumpiness when it's just like you or Matthew start talking about music. It's like, I don't want to absorb new music or new ideas. No, I'm perfectly happy as I am. Thank you very much.
With your prog rock.
And then I realised I knew it anyway. So exactly, yeah. Although I was listening to Saturday Night Fever yesterday on the commute home, Keri. What an album.
It is good, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, that's better than prog rock, isn't it? I was trying to think when they mentioned Brandon said he liked prog rock. What? It made me sort of cringe and recoil. And then I thought, what are prog rock bands? They're middle of the road, aren't they? Is it things like Rush?
Genesis... post Genesis, Peter Gabriel. The king of prog rock would be Rick Wakeman.
Yes.
So 2 hour sort of keyboard solos, kind of dressed as a giant wizard.
Yeah.
I think that's maybe Fish might be considered prog rock. I don't know. Yeah, I think you need to be quite a patient and kind of forgiving soul to be into prog rock, but. I did,
or boring. Is that?
I did know a whole load of prog rockers when I lived in Richmond. There was all these old who was kind of like desperately trying to cling on to their hairlines and their kind of enormous 3-foot mullets. And I remember being in a pub garden with one once, and he was talking absolute bollocks. And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he goes, just out of nowhere, he goes, "'Cause I'm known." I was like, "Oh God, all right."
Gnome.
Because he's like, because he just wanted to basically say, I'm a big deal. He basically said to me, I'm a big deal.
Peter, do you know what I thought you said? I am gnome. GNOME.
That would probably be quite prog rocky.
It probably.
I am gnome.
Yeah, I'd have to sort of run a mile if someone said I am gnome.
Do you know who I sound like there? Peter Serafinovich, where he's turning on Fran in Black Books. Fran, what's the matter, Fran? Are you all right? Fran. Yeah. Have you seen that?
I really fancy him.
Oh, okay. Well, you're welcome, Keri. You're very welcome,
Peter, what's his face? Oh, yes. Very naughty looking and funny.
When we've got the time, we ought to do like a definitive list of people who give you a war bond. fully, how can I put it nicely? I won't bother. Juiced up.
Yeah, it's a rum bunch, I'm telling you.
There doesn't seem to be any particular formula that I can spot. But...
Oh, quite really blokey and silly wit.
Oh, no one is gonna blow over in a hailstorm. They're all quite chunky lads, aren't they?
Yeah, although I've just not described Brian Ferry at all there, have I? Really blokey and a silly wit. So he's the exception. But anyway.
Does Peter Serafinovich like fox hunting?
That is not a given in the men that I liked.
I'd love it if if suddenly the scales drop from your eyes and you realise you're just massively turned on by the torture and killing of small.
Yeah, when I'm on Tinder, that's the main thing I'm looking for.
Oh my God, yeah, it'd be a weird thing to know about yourself. Keri, let's check an ad in, and then we've got a message from Matthew. So anyway, hey Matthew, what does he see? Let's find out. I'm going to press play.
Hello, you two, and just checking in to see how you're both doing. Unfortunately, can't be with you this evening. I'm in Campania train station, about to take a train to Lisbon. For those that don't know, Campania is one of the second biggest train stations in Porto. It might be the first, and a train is a locomotive which carries people from place to place. Don't know if you have those in the UK. I don't think so. I can't wait to hear what you both make of the wonderful week in Ambridge. the Spanish Eurovision stuff. Leonard is a comedian. I think the most troubling thing about that is Leonard is unaware that the government fast-tracked new rules in, which means Harris can now send him down for life. Yeah, look forward to it. All a bit weird with Rylan tonight, wasn't it? Literally just stop listening. Enjoy, and love to hear your thoughts on Justice. Peace.
Oh, he mentioned Justice. I was going to say at the beginning there, all right, Tony.
Do you know, it's bloody noisy, wasn't it? It sounded like they were actually building the train before they were to use it. It's kind of like spot welders and kind of arc welders in the back.
Is it steam still there? Probably backward country.
Yeah, exactly. He's always slamming this country, isn't he? He's turning me like sometimes I can feel the kind of Marc Francois in me kind of rise up when Matthew does another dig. It's like, it's all right, Matthew. We live here, you know. I mean, we have to put up with it. You know, it's very easy to slag off Jacob Rees-Mogg when you don't have to see him ruling you on television every morning.
So he wasn't impressed with Leonard then?
No. Were you impressed with Leonard? I
liked your description of the pair of them as a comedy act being fail and disgrace.
Yeah. Yeah. It was. Do you think it was slightly redeemed by the kind of the payoff where they did the kind of cross-dressing Eddie and Leonard in his police uniform?
What do you think? What do you think?
I was trying to be nice, Keri. I'm just
honestly.
I know what I think.
Yeah. What do you think I think?
Everyone knows what I think. The same every week.
Yeah. What on earth do you think I thought of that though? Also, right. Okay. Let's start at the beginning. Firstly, Sunday's episode, which is the start of our week, isn't it?
Right. Okay.
Right. Leonard asks David out of nowhere. He's gone round. David's trying to fix a gate.
Of course, I completely
Leonard says something like, he's been watching...
I think I'm dull as David.
Yeah. He's been watching the coronation highlights repeatedly with Jill. Oh, that sounds like a lovely way to spend your time. David watched the actual thing and once was enough. So that's slight dig. Hooray. Then Leonard mentioned he was doing the big help out at the repair cafe at Bennyasset tomorrow.
Do you know who didn't do the big help out? The King. I don't call him the King. Prince Charles. Anyway, sorry, carry on, Keri.
What, Elvis?
Yeah, exactly. He's probably more likely to help out than Prince Charles. But anyway,
yes.
So yeah.
And then David sort of went, I'm off to the Bridge Farm illuminations tonight. I thought, oh, God, this is an awful start to the week. And then Leonard, suddenly out of nowhere, said, do you find me funny? I can't do his accent. And David went, strange. He went, no, comical. Like, why was he asking him that? And then the very next day, I think it was, within the week anyway, Eddie's trying to rope him into being his comedy partner.
It was a bit on the nose, wasn't it? It was a bit too obvious.
What?
It's not obvious. Sorry, that's mad. It wasn't obvious at all, but it was a bit kind of faux coincidental. But sorry, Keri. I mean, I have never spent time in the bed. I've never had sex with someone who has a penis. I'll just say that out there.
Okay.
In case anyone was curious. But I imagine
not even yourself.
No, so you're absolutely right. I've had sex that involves someone with a penis. But the point is this, right? I imagined if you're in a relationship with someone who has a penis and then they're like, is my penis small? Anything except for it's massive is going to basically, the other person's going to be upset, right? Don't ask if your penis is big. Don't ask if I'm funny. These questions, you're just setting yourself up for disappointment. Because all you want to hear is, oh, you're the funniest person with the most massive cock. It's like, it's just... Yeah.
Although I did like David's answer, which was...
And we know about Leonard's cock as well, don't we?
Yes.
We've all seen it.
David should have said, no, you're not, but your cock's massive.
Yes.
But David's answer was really like, oh, you're a lovely bloke and you're really helpful about the house. He just skirted around it. Basically, his answer was, no, you're not, which is exactly what you've said. He shouldn't have... Hey, anyway, actually, Peter, I need to ask you something.
Is my penis big?
Do you find me funny?
Do I find you funny? Keri, come on. Are you funny? Well, you've never helped me around the house. I would say you are top 10 people I've found funny in my life.
Bloody hell. I mean, it's just a ridiculous question to ask, isn't it?
No, but I've given you a very specific answer.
Thank you so much, Peter.
That's pretty ridiculous. That involves, that includes some
Norm MacDonald, am I up there with him?
No, you're not even fit to tie his shoelaces, Keri.
Well, I know. I'm okay.
Come on.
I'm number 10 then.
Okay. I mean, if I'd met Norm MacDonald, I might just clear the other 9 out as an act of respect to the great man.
He is a god, isn't he, Norm MacDonald?
Funny in a way that you probably can't learn. Like, they always say about Tommy Cooper or some of these other people. It's just not possible. Like, it's not possible for someone else to tell his jokes.
Yes, definitely not. Oh, absolutely not. No. He's totally there's just him. Oh, Norm.
So anyway, is Leonard as funny as Norm MacDonald? No. But let's put it this way. Matthew's been finding David quite funny recently. I tend to agree. I think David's having a strange renaissance. He's quite likable. Or is it just that they keep on juxtaposing him with Helen?
Everyone's hilarious compared to her. David, he can have his... What happens with David is he has quite a few unwitting comedy moments, doesn't he? Like when he was jealous about the illuminations and what was going on there, making Brookfield look a bit stick in the mud and stuff, his little comments there, that made me laugh, that he's thinking, oh, my farm's not as good as your farm.
Yeah, they've definitely started to use his kind of off sort of to one side grumbles as little kind of comedy payoffs. But is he really that thick that he wouldn't understand how a journalist works? Like, do you think that's true to life, that someone will be so caught up by the kind of sight of a microphone that they just sort of start gushing endlessly? Maybe
that was embarrassing, wasn't it? Because at first he stepped in to be a bit protective of Helen when this Rebecca turned up. And so when I don't think it's appropriate, we're talking about today, that's not, we're not talking about that. And then, but he also sort of nudged Helen towards talking to her as well, saying, oh, it would be great publicity. Then it was quite funny when he was pushing Brookfield information at her about, like, my son, he sells eggs. And she said, really fascinating, and wasn't listening at all or paying any attention, wasn't she? She just dismissed his dismal attempt at promoting Brookfield.
Well, she's got Stabber Archer in front of her. She's digging for the big story. I think, I did feel a little bit sorry for Helen in that moment, but
I'm not saying.
No. I think we've been over that.
Yeah,
we did. Matthew did the edit last week, so I didn't hear and I was away. I didn't hear the podcast again until I think it was like Tuesday. I managed to listen to it Monday, Tuesday. So it was going to completely. I listened to it almost, like everyone else did, and I was quite astonished by how prolonged and unnecessary and vitriolic my rant against Helen was.
Hey, also King Childs, not Adrian Childs.
Yeah, that's
he'd be a good king, wouldn't he? Not King Charles encouraged Helen's cheese making.
Oh yes,
didn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't remember that. I'm sure it happened.
Yeah, but I mean,
God knows what year that was, where she chatted to him about potentially setting up her cheese making business, and he sort of went, "Yes, you can."
Was that on air? I mean, not the conversation, because not him. He wasn't on it, but was it reported? Was it talked about that Helen came back when she was kind of like, what did Helen do before she was a cheesemaker?
You're asking the wrong woman.
I'm going to boost the levels on that, Keri. It sounded like...
we're going, oh.
No, you sounded like a sort of corpse's death rattle. Just thinking about Helen.
It is. Yeah. I mean, thinking about Helen now is bad enough. Trying to recall what Helen was before now, that's a reach.
Yeah.
I mean, I know she was annoying, but...
we were listening to the Archers earlier on, and so it's normally Keri's doing the Twitter, and I might go on Twitter, or I might just fling bile onto our WhatsApp group, and I think I just kind of like was just God, why? Just could they so close to a whole week without having to listen to her kind of like prattle on, and it was like that awful kind of like when Rob might be at the end of the phone. Or do you think it definitely was Rob?
Well, yeah, you said like can't we have one episode without Helen? Because we nearly did, didn't we? Today, Friday, it was
Almost
like a great episode. It was the best episode of the week because Rylan was in
looking
it.
forward to talking about that. Yeah,
yeah, and then Helen was hello. No one spoke. Someone said on Twitter they thought it might be George doing a prank. I quite liked that idea. But they keep dropping these. Is it Rob? Isn't it Rob? You know, there was Jack saw a man in the garden, which was very alarming. And I think it's because Jack doesn't really see a man very often because he lives with Lee. It was a bit of a surprise to him that there was an actual man about.
Well, same thing happened to Ben with Rylan, didn't it? In the field, he was like, "Oh,
yeah, yeah, an actual human type man."
That's Helen over and done with. We've done that. Tick topics.
Yeah. Hurry up, Rob, to show up or move on with this.
I think what it is it's a quite famous comment about Pulp Fiction that the amount of blood or the amount of actual violence in Pulp Fiction is virtually non-existent. It's all inferred. Like you see the guy holding the razor, you see him sort of pacing around. The music, the acting gives you all of the violence, but there's very little actual violence in it. And I think they need to learn that with the Archers. Like less would definitely be more with Rob. Like we've been saturated with it. So when he finally turns up, he'll be hailed like you are now. Will be hailed like a all conquering hero. It's just like please, just it's too much. It would have been much better if they had just brought him in like almost out of nowhere. Like Monday, slight hint Rob's in town. Wednesday, someone sees something. 1 week without anything, and then boom, in he comes.
Yeah.
It would have been really tense, you know.
I know. I think they think they're being really clever, and that just as Rob is in Helen's head, he's supposedly in ours because we're sort of, is it him on the phone? Is it him in the garden?
That's exactly what I was trying to say.
You know, it's too drawn out, and just get on with it. You know, it's not the same. We're not Helen.
Thank the Lord.
Yeah, wheel him in. Or stop it. Stop this.
By the way, if anyone listening knows me and thinks that I'm like Helen, this is like Steve Redgrave. You have my permission to shoot me. If I am just deluded and I don't realize if my dislike of Helen is actually just a strange version of self-loathing, then please come and take me to Switzerland, euthanize me, please.
No, you're not like Helen, Peter.
Thank you, Keri. I appreciate that.
No, you're like Leonard. You're not at all. It was just the first name that came into my head.
Oh, I'll take it.
No, you're definitely funny. Leonard. Oh God, that bloody thing that they did, the comedy sketch where one of them was Mrs. Smellamy was Eddie. Sergeant Worms was Leonard. So many people on Twitter were just going, "What is happening?" when they were listening live, and I've listened to it twice now. And they had to have Tracy there, I think, because she was laughing a lot, wasn't she, in the background? Because if she hadn't been there, it would have been 1,000 times worse than the dreadful mess it was anyway.
My job is vaguely creative, right? So, as you know, one of the things I'm always saying is like, if you force me to go with my first idea, if there's not enough time, if I'm only able to have like one shot at everything, there's well over a 50-50 chance it'll be terrible because I never have the ability to go to bed, wake up the next morning and go, oh my God, that's so bad. And I sometimes feel like that with the Archers. Is there no opportunity? Do they not have like an Emperor's New Clothes style small boy, someone to kind of like go, this is dreadful, this is a terrible idea? Like, is it an echo chamber? What's going on there in Birmingham?
Well, I like to think that Twitter is that small boy going, what on earth is going on?
But the small boy's being ignored, Keri.
Yeah, the wrong person's not looking at Twitter.
But I'm just thinking it might just be a lack of time thing, because we know that some of the writers are capable of churning out some really good stuff. So, well, it's just like I'm saying, like, for me, it might not be that I'm incompetent. It's just I never have the chance to kind of review my work and go, oh God, yeah, that was not a good idea.
Yeah, but we're only, a little bunch of people. They have millions of listeners, don't they? I sometimes sort of fantasize about, like, are there really millions of people going, oh, that shite? Does it actually happen?
It's one thing listening to the Archers. It's another thing then logging onto Twitter to actually bother to talk about it, right? Like, so, and then our podcast is pretty much made up of people from that community, that Twitter community.
Yes.
Like that, 90% are from that Twitter community. And, a nice bunch, but definitely a bit screwed up by the amount of Archers they listen to.
These millions of others who are listening to Radio 4's The Archers, day in, day out, they don't go on Twitter, they don't go on social media, are perfectly happy with what is happening and think it's bloody great entertainment. I don't know. Sometimes do question my cynicism. Not very often. But it's healthy to do that, isn't it, I think?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, like, it's the thing is that because we spend so much time talking about it and looking at it, we forget that for a lot of people, it might just be that thing that washes over them and is quite sort of pleasant. And actually, it's as much about, like, companionship and having, like, like your pet dog. You don't expect insight and provocative thoughts from your dog. So the Archers can perform the same kind of function. It just sits there in a corner, just kind of like being friendly and lovable and predictable. Yeah. And that's the only job. And actually, that does bear out, doesn't it? Because, like, you do get, like, when you have Helen or you have one of these kind of really quite serious plots, it does ruffle the Archers universe. People get quite annoyed that their lovely little kind of bucolic soap opera suddenly has got rape in it or murder or something nasty.
Yeah, that's not what they want whilst they're making the spaghetti bolognese.
No.
And listening in necessarily. Yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it? The whole thing. Everything's weird, really.
Leonard's not funny, but listening to the Archers is funny.
Yeah.
I was very surprised, Keri, by how funny Rylan was. I thought he was absolutely, I don't know. I mean, as I said last week, I hinted at it. I've got a lot of time for him. I think he's obviously, I think he's unfakeably a nice man. And I thought he was maybe the best actor this week.
Maybe.
He was really good.
He definitely was.
I don't think that's an insult to the professionals. I think he was just very natural.
He brought a real warmth to it all. I just thought, yes, he's funny, he's interesting, very, very natural sounding. He slotted into all the people that he was talking to. And, he was very, I don't know, he played off Lynda and Ben and David really well against each other. I love that he just went, what? You threw someone out of the B&B for me? I'm not comfortable with that. And then just went off to Joy's. And I thought, oh, if only we could have heard Rylan with Joy. They are made for each other, aren't they? She'd have been bloody lovely with him. They'd have had a right laugh. Neither of the other places were right for him to stay in.
Yeah, you're convinced that's all the Rylan we're going to get, aren't you?
Well, I worry about that because obviously Eurovision is tomorrow night, which is Saturday, and the next Archers episode is Sunday. So what will they do on Sunday's episode? Not the omnibus, the one after. What will Sunday night? He's not going to go back to Ambridge, is he, after the Eurovision?
We know that he had an all-nighter with Mick before, and they have sold it that they had a very good time. Now,
oh right, yeah.
So maybe we'll hear a kind of hungover fry up with Joy on Sunday morning.
What? So after the Eurovision in Liverpool, you'd go back to Mick?
Oh, of course, he's actually involved in Eurovision, isn't he?
Yeah, that's what I mean, on Saturday. But that was all.
I was. Do you know? I astonish myself with how stupid. It's very. It's quite healthy every now and again to be reminded how thick you are.
I think it's because you're not going to watch Eurovision at all. So in your mind, it isn't really registering as a thing. But I have got loads of booze in and snacks and stuff, and I've got people coming round, and we're going to watch Eurovision.
Well, as we know, Keri, I know nothing about the Eurovision except for Bucks Fizz, Waterloo.
Yeah.
Lordy.
I mean, it was slightly spurious that Rylan has come to Ambridge based on having met Mick once.
I mean, absolute tosh. But to be honest, by the current standards that the Archers have set, really, quite plausible.
Yeah, fine.
Yeah. I didn't. No, I mean, obviously, it's. But Mick, he's also got Toyah in, didn't he? He was the gateway drug for Toyah.
Yeah. Whoever next? Who will it be next week?
Jimmy Page.
Is he still alive?
I think he is. He's on the list of people who've got away with it, like in terms of their reputation being intact despite some very dubious stuff. Like the same thing with what's his name? Peel, David Bowie. A lot of people who are on the record as doing it and saying some quite terrible things in the past. Eric Clapton, the same. Just some of these old rockers who, with their behaviour in the 70s, has kind of been like, if it was, say, I don't know,
True.
What's his name? Ginger one.
What?
Oh, looks like the ginger singer person, Ed
Mick
Sheeran.
Hucknall?
If Ed Sheeran, he's probably on it. But anyway, if Ed Sheeran behaved the way that any of these people had back in the 70s, he would be cancelled in a second. Anyway.
Yeah, there's some murky stuff.
Murky stuff, but that's a whole other thing. But so anyway, but I think, Mick, actually Mick's quite, with that job he's had, it's quite plausible he can meet anyone, isn't it? So if they do need to drag someone in. And now, did you think that Mick was a bit more likeable this week? They've kind of toned him down a bit. He's a little less kind of like...
well, he barely appeared, and he was just chatting to Rylan, so I was just like, oh, this is good. Rylan's in it. So I didn't really think that much about
Maybe it was
Mick.
reflected glory. But
they were just laughing about having had a right old night out, weren't they? So
yeah. But it was fantastic to hear Rylan basically tell Ben and Lynda to do one.
Yes.
Did you hear the moment when Ben was like, and this is my dad, David, and I'm Ben, and this is my Tom, and this is Beth.
Yeah. Oh, dear. Yeah, Rylan actually was quite sweet and sort of went, oh, all right, gal, or something.
Oh, it's a dog. Oh, it's a dog.
Yeah. I did half expect Rylan to go, fucking hell, this village is really weird, isn't it? Are you lot all right, or what? What's going on here? Because everyone was so odd.
Mr. Clark.
Yes.
I'm sorry you have to put up with this these hijinks and shenanigans.
Oh dear, oh dear.
What chicanery, Ben? Ooh.
Can't have you staying in this farm.
Shite-hole.
Be like this.
You'll be covered in feces, Mr. Clark.
Come to my house where I'm a
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, standing there in a Phantom of the Opera mask, screaming abuse at Ben with a big purple cape on.
And Rylan going, "No, you're all right, love. I'm going to go to Joy's."
Did he sounded, his voice was a bit deeper and more kind of
Rylan's.
silky, yeah.
Oh yeah, especially right at the beginning. He was quite blokey, wasn't it? I think it was done on purpose for us to think, is it him? Is it not him? Is it him? I saw on Twitter people going, is that really Rylan?
All right, you slags.
Yeah.
I sat there right down.
Yeah, it was a bit like that, wasn't it?
But yeah, I thought Rylan was. I mean, he's a perfectly pleasant looking man, but his voice. Oh yeah, please.
He was good, and I wish and he even ate lemon drizzle, didn't he? Oh, this cake is bloody lovely. It's quite lemony. Yeah, I loved him being in it, and I wish he was in it every day, all the time. Really.
Yeah, I could happily listen to a Rylan spin-off of the Archers.
Yeah.
So I mentioned Adil was kicked out of Linda's And
Yeah.
then we heard that sad little bit with Lillian, and obviously Lillian was the right person for that. Like she's one. I think when I know that you have a complicated relationship with Lillian,
Yeah.
and finds the kind of like all stuff a bit over the top.
Yeah.
One, that has been calmed down a little bit since she's been with Justin, and two,
she
I
stopped
think
laughing.
that when she's not doing that shtick, she can be a very sympathetic character and quite good for these kind of more sort of moving and gentle scenes.
Yeah, it's a shame that that's over-egged, really, or that sort of "Gin, darling," that cackle, and because I love her voice, and when she listens to other people and actually cares about other people, she can do it really well, and I love that about her.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Actor, sorry, now I always do that. I don't know. It's like you do it sometimes as well. I don't act it out because I don't want to be too sort of weird about it. But anyway, sorry, guys. But sorry, Keri, you were saying.
But it was poor Adil saying about the hit and run thing with his wife 3 years ago. It was the anniversary of it, wasn't it? And that the hearing about Jazza being hit by a car had kind of stirred this up. Although the anniversary would have stirred it up.
Was Jazza road kilt?
Road kilt is such a good one, Peter.
Thank you.
That's got to go in the
take that, Matthew.
Yeah. But why is everyone getting hit by cars in this area? For one thing.
How many times have you been hit by a car?
Nil. And I haven't hit anyone in my car either.
You're not?
No, I haven't got a car. No, I have had cars, but I haven't hit.
You occasionally go out in your mum's car for a bit of a...
I do. And I hire a car and stuff. But no, I've never hit anyone in my car. But I did think, like, when he said, oh, yeah, the car ploughed into a bus queue and it hit 3 people and others were injured. Wouldn't you sort of go, oh, yeah, I remember that? Because it was in the locality, wasn't it?
No, I'd go, I remember that. It was on front page. It was front page news for about 3 weeks.
Yeah, but it was actually not, because she sort of went, it was not far from here or so. I don't know. There was a bit of recognition, maybe, but...
Do you think we're going to find out who it was? Do you think it's going to be...
Yeah, who is this bloody motorist who keeps running into people?
I mean, it's... Who's been... So, Matt's been run over. Jazz has been run over. Who else has been run over? John.
Chelsea ran over someone or something, didn't she?
Yeah. Was he run over? Or did the tractor roll on him?
No, the tractor. That was a bit of a sort of East 17 type situation, wasn't it? Without the jacket potatoes. You know of that story, don't you?
Well, I know, no idea.
Brian Harvey from East 17. He ran himself over.
Yeah.
When he was leaning out of his car because he was trying to get some potatoes, jacket potatoes. There seemed, obviously Jim, he pounced on this, didn't he? This sort of being hit by a vehicle, especially because Jazza's...
I'm going to say it again, especially because Matthew's not here. I'm finding this version of Jim a bit irritating.
Oh, are you? Because he really liked that Jazza was hit by an EV.
Yeah, it doesn't... it's just so... The thing. Okay, so I think Jim is a sort of refined and intelligent man, and I also think that one of his biggest strengths is his ability to not sort of live at the poles, but to live in the grey areas of life and kind of think things through and sort of embrace complexity and not just sort of have to have a simplistic view. And it seems to me that a man of Jim's intelligence would... He might try and lobby to change the scale of it, or he might, but this kind of like binary development is bad attitude doesn't seem very Jim-like.
Yes, yeah. So are you saying that the script writers have mullered his character to fit with their storylines?
Well, they had to do it eventually, Keri. They can't leave anything alone. They can't Just let us have nice things. And so, you know, just one by one. Like, I mean, who's left? Adil, I say I like. Who else is left? Rex, they've gotten rid of. Toby, who I quite like, they've gotten rid of him.
What about Joy? She's good. Si, senor, un poco.
There you go. Even that's fantastic. I mean, just that I still think very, very fondly of the scene. One of my favourite scenes of all time, where Russ got Shy Willy, and Joy got the opposite of Shy Willy, bold vag, and just threw all her clothes off.
Yeah, when she was the live drawing person. She's absolutely brilliant, isn't she? I love her. I loved her this week. She barely was in it, but she breezed in with refreshments. That's what she is. She is refreshments. She is refreshments in human form. I can't remember why she was bringing refreshments or who it was for. Oh, it was when they were doing that bloody help out thing, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Was it? And she went, here you go, refreshments. But also, that was the other time she was in it was when she said, oh, I'd like to see, oh my God, Kirsty and Helen's Spanish entry into the Eurovision show fiasco, where Helen is cooking fritters whilst Kirsty talks about Spanish traditions. I mean, who wouldn't want to watch that of a Saturday night?
I don't really believe in sort of. I mean, obviously there's cultural differences, but you know, people are people. It's a country is a collection of individuals. So there's not a Spanish. There's not a kind of hard and fast Spanish persona. That said, there are no two less Spanish people in any universe, fictional or otherwise, than Kirsty and Helen.
Helen and Lee.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Lee. Maybe. My God. I mean, but you know.
All of the Archers.
All of the Archers. Yeah, well, they tried that, didn't they? They did it with that show El Dorado. They tried to do Archers by.
Oh yeah, that went well, didn't it?
Did you ever watch that?
I probably did. A couple of episodes, no more. There was someone called Jesse in it, I think.
Yeah,
who was quite a good-looking bloke, wasn't he? Supposedly.
And then there was someone who was like a kind of cut price, Catherine Zeta-Jones, in there.
Oh, was there? See, I remember the bloke. You remember?
Well, I just remember that she was called like Fizz or something, and she was kind of like poured into a bunch of kind of like bright coloured dresses, and I think we were all supposed to get horny and sort of turned on and watch it.
Obviously, the setting is quite appealing, but the script was absolutely terrible, and the acting wasn't much better from memory. A bit like the Archers.
Just remember what we're doing, Keri, for God's sake.
Oh God, sorry.
We're big fans of soap operas, remember?
Yes, absolutely amazing.
And the worse they are, the best they are.
Anyway,
what I said a couple of weeks ago, I don't do that kind of ironic thing where you like things because it's so bad. It's like, oh, come on, yes, you bloody do.
Yes, you do.
So we were talking before we yet again stuck the boot in. We were talking about Lillian and Adil and how she was the right person for it. And I really like him, and I'm glad that we're going to start to learn some more about his backstory, and also I think that it does kind of make sense if he is this recently widowed person. He does have a kind of Warbis-like happiness to be very kind of like candid and straightforward, which I think makes sense. If you've just had this huge bereavement, why would you care about Roy being a racist? Why would you care about upsetting a few villagers about a stupid job at a big country pile? Like, he's got much bigger fish to fry than worrying about the fragile egos of Ambridge's residents,
including Lynda. And he threw some shade at Lynda, which I loved, where he said to Lillian about her home, "This is a real step from what I'm used to. Step up from what I'm used to." And Lynda was there.
That was so good. Yeah. He's a really, like, I do remember when he first turned up, there was a few people who were kind of like, I'm not one of these people who sees racism where there isn't any. But like, it was like, what else is there to dislike about him apart from the fact that he's Asian? It was just kind of like, he was just always quite a likable man.
Ooh, No, I've got to differ with you there because I think the acting initially was very.
Why do you hate Asian people, Keri?
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Look, guys, we've kept Keri's racism off mic for 2 years now. It's about the bubble's about to burst.
Oh no, I do think his acting was very. It was a bit iffy, a bit wooden.
Do you think they've improved it?
Oh yeah. He's definitely improved in leaps and bounds, but I do think it was like, oh dear, a bit awkward at first.
But they often do, like, I think I've mentioned on the pod before, like the first episode of Cheers is a kind of exemplar in how to introduce characters in a way where you learn everything about them without them having to do the, oh, look, I just dropped my expensive briefcase. It's fallen open full of all my architect's plans. Well, yes, I'm the new architect who has joined the village, you know.
Yeah.
It just that you learn everything without it being kind of like foie gras down you like you're a goose.
Yeah.
And and I think that a lot of the characters suffer from that. We were talking about Mick earlier on. It was kind of like, yeah, he's the jokey kind of guy from the Northeast, and then Adil's the mysterious guy who's kind of enigmatic and keeps his cards close to his chest. It's like it was all a bit too much.
Do you think Sykesy will improve then?
No, the thing is, as I said before, I like Jasper Carrot. It's so disappointing that he's so shit.
Yes. Hey, what did you think about what happened with Jazza and Tracy this week?
Well, the wrestling.
Yeah. And Brad being all like, oh, do you have to? And obviously they're not going to, and then they were going to possibly postpone the wedding, which isn't going to happen.
I don't know. The honest truth is, Keri, I'm trying to form some opinions. I don't really have any. So the wrestling, there's nothing to say about it. It was fun, but it was also kind of like a bit weird. Brad was fun as always, and he is, I think, arguably the best actor in the show.
Ooh.
I think he's just incredible at how he can kind of do the serious stuff and those little comedy asides is amazing. I really, really enjoy all the scenes with Brad. But anyway, but the point is that what was it doing, really?
Well, he's going to now have to be on sick pay, isn't he? So it's more struggling financially.
I thought they'd solved that problem. I thought they were now Jazza was back. I mean, they never really did. They never really did the them being skint thing. It was like a few mentions for a couple of months, and then they just Tracy got some shifts, and Jazz got some shifts, and it was all kind of sorted. Or are they going to be thrown back into being skint again?
And also, there was another layer to the Jazza Tracy thing this week, which was that Tracy kept moaning about him, and Jim set her straight by saying, actually, when Jazza was talking to me on the stag do, he couldn't sing your praises more. He feels very privileged to have you in his life, blah, blah, blah. So that was another lovely bit of Jimming, I think.
Yeah.
To shed light on a good situation, I think.
I think you're right. You put it absolutely brilliantly, where they have overestimated. They think we have Helen levels of involvement in Rob, and so what they think is 3 or 4 weeks of tension growing is in fact us just being bored by some fairly humdrum plot. They think the gap is building tension, and maybe simultaneously what they're also doing is just building us up for the wedding. And giving them some time of being a loving couple, and we're having a few petty rows and some making up. Nothing dramatic, just enough to kind of keep them front and center. So when the wedding does happen, we're kind of emotionally invested and actually care. I mean, that's fair enough. You know, that does make a bit of sense. But see, I'm not all negative, Keri. I can say some positive things.
Yeah, and okay, I want to ask you as well. What did you think about the Freddie Lizzie dynamic this week?
My God, I really did. I thought of you when it was happening, right? And Brundlesprike, whatever his name is, was it Brandon? Brandon, that's it. Brundlesprike, bloody hell! Right, Brandon comes on and delivers the bad news, and then I like Freddie. You like Freddie more. Matthew likes Freddie. But suddenly he's like, where's my inheritance? Why aren't I becoming Lord? It is dreadful. Mummy, 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 they're never going to forgive me and let me be Lord. Oh, hoo, hoo, hoo. And then Lizzie's being unbelievably unsympathetic. And then Brandon was a pile of shite as well. What could have been a really interesting scene was reduced to just nonsense.
I don't blame Freddie for going a bit nuts there, because
you really do love him, don't you?
I do. I really, really am invested in Freddie.
Yeah.
And I think Brandon was brought in. Obviously, he likes prog rock. That's problematic. But and he was a solicitor. But he really sort of grilled them as if he was a detective, far better than Harrison, didn't he? About the situation with the painting. It's like, that surely would not happen like that with a trustee. There was a trustee solicitor on Twitter saying, I'm a trustee and solicitor. I wouldn't have done this. This never would have happened. It's all a load of rubbish.
He's a servant to the project. He's not there to be judge and jury.
Yeah.
He's there, they're there to look for breach of kind of like rules, and then
you don't barnstorm in there going, and another thing pointing at Freddie. And I thought, right, he's come in there doing that. And what Elizabeth should have done is said, hang on a minute. No, this is my son you're talking about. You're overreacting. We need to sort of do this in a very different way. But earlier on in the week, she'd not believed Freddie. She thought he'd ruined the painting.
Oh, she's awful at the moment.
She's so no wonder Freddie's pissed off. His mum keeps suspecting him of stuff, has no faith in him, hasn't prepared him for the real world. When Brandon said to Freddie, right, we're going to review the age at which you inherit, Elizabeth didn't sort of go, and Freddie was upset about that. She was just going to Freddie, oh, don't worry, doesn't that just mean that it's longer for you to not have any pressure about it? It gives him no credence for his concerns about what's going on.
Also, I think I put it reasonably well a couple of weeks ago. If you are going to buy into and be involved in, as Brandon and Lizzie are, in the kind of nonsense of a feudal inherited kind of like setup, then he is the little lord. You're all working to get him to the point where he can take over. That is what God intended. Divine providence. Freddie is better than you fucking peasant. Don't come in and talk to him like that. Obviously, this is not what I think, but that's the whole point of you being there, is to enable Freddie to ascend to his, his birthright.
Yeah, in no way is Freddie better than anybody, but I think he deserves better treatment than he's getting.
But you're not insane. You don't believe that the British kind of feudal system is kind of like holds any water. But Brandon must do, because otherwise, why would he be serving on this panel?
Yeah, I think it's poor form for Elizabeth. Mainly.
I'd love to see your version of Debrett's. Keri's kind of like, I'd love to see the rules of etiquette rewritten along the Warbis lines. Kind of like, you basically, if you're caught short, you can take a shit in an alleyway as long as you clean it up afterwards. That'll be fine. But, taking the last slice of pork pie to the tower.
I honestly, Freddie has done little wrong in my eyes. He's messed up with the drug thing ages ago. He was a youngster. He was dicking around. He didn't have his dad's dead. Elizabeth had a mental breakdown. Freddie's Lily, on the other hand, is a bit more. What's the word? I was going to say robust, but she had Russ, didn't she? She turned to him. Not sure that was a great thing. I love Russ as a character, but was that the right thing she should have been doing? Probably not. But she doesn't get any shit for that, does she?
No.
From Elizabeth. Freddie gets all the shit.
Beyond anything, there's the very fact that Elizabeth has been both of her children in the past. We've all had a ringside seat. She's been the problematic child who has then put her life back together. So her lack of lack of sympathy for her children is extraordinary. I think in a show that's almost defined by its terrible mothers.
Yes.
Lizzie is putting in a strong contender for worst mother at the moment. And there's some pretty stiff competition.
Yeah, definitely. And her involvement with Vince.
Oh, yeah.
Why is she still entertaining him? I know he's not been in it for a while, but he did some very, very bad stuff. And she didn't walk away from him.
She's a very inconsistent character. It's very, very odd. Keri, let's chuck an advert in and then see if we've got any gas left in the tank.
Yeah. The answer to that is no. We don't have it.
Come on, Keri. We can do it. I'm sure if people hang around, there will be probably at least one moment that's vaguely worthwhile. Two.
God, loads, yeah.
So
we've got gas. The Archers, we've done all of the Archers' plots and characters, I think.
Yeah. Oh, I tell you what, we can talk about. I trailered it at the beginning. My middle-aged moment.
Oh God, yes.
Yeah. So old age has hit me. Not even middle age. Old age has hit me. I was taken down by the London Underground. I was walking around with my head up like a kind of distracted tourist, and my shoelaces got sucked into the escalator. And 6'1" of fat old fool crashed down to the
with a rucksack full of heavy stuff.
And I have smashed my kneecaps into pieces. The phrase to kneecap someone. I now understand what that means. And it's extraordinarily painful. So anyway, there you go.
It sounds really scary, though. Your laces being sucked into the mechanisms and falling, and in front of loads of people as well. There's the injury. There's the embarrassment. There's the awkwardness. It's just all awful, isn't it?
I had the trifecta of Yeah, it was a deeply unpleasant moment, Keri. Thank you for your sympathy on WhatsApp. You've been, as always, a stalwart, a good friend. But yeah, people, do your laces up. It turns out that when your parents say "do your laces up," there are serious ramifications.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you're all right.
Yeah. So, Keri, if people want to send me kind words and sympathy, where can they go?
Well, they can go to either the Twitter account, which is at the Cider Shed Pod, and we've got 3,320 Twitter followers.
Always going up.
Isn't it good?
Yeah.
We haven't had any new reviews since last week, so please feel free to jot down some words, 5-star review us. Love to see it.
Instructions, or the link is on the podcast description.
Yeah, that would be great if you could do that. The Instagram account, I think, is at the Cider Shed Pod.
Matthew does all this, doesn't he? Every week.
And
he's so much better than us at this bit.
Facebook one is similar to that. Just put Cider Shed in.
Yeah.
There can't be many others, can there?
Yeah. And then if you want to send an email, if it's similar to, I don't know, chucking a bucket of sick down a well, won't make any difference. But, no one else does. But if you fancy sending us an email, it's hello@cidershed.com. Everyone does social media. I guess that's the way the world is. And then please consider supporting us on Patreon. It makes a huge difference. It's an incredible amount of fun to do the podcast, but it is a big old chunk of work. So that's patreon.com/the Cider Shed. And we really appreciate all the help we get. It's absolutely fantastic. So, Keri, this weekend,
yes,
what are you up to? Are you hanging out with your beautiful children?
Yes, I will be. As mentioned earlier, I'm Eurovisioning tomorrow. I think Max is swerving that. He has watched it in the past, but he's, I think, gonna do gaming.
I haven't met either of your children, but I do like them. I've heard so much about them over the years.
Oh.
Each layer of evidence is like a big lasagna of proof that they're good people in their own ways. So, like,
bloody good people.
we've seen pictures of all the stuff they've done for you. They're good.
They are good. But Mimi fully on board with Eurovision, so
she's got enough credit in the bank that I'll forgive her that.
Well, I love it too.
Yeah.
So we've got loads of booze in, loads of snacks. We're going to watch Eurovision. I'll be tweeting about it under my own at Keri Warbis Twitter.
Well, you can pick up some of Graham Norton's slack because he can't do the full thing this year, can he?
No, this is true. Tomorrow I'm going out for breakfast with a couple of lovely women tomorrow morning. Sunday will just be slobbing and having to do the omnibus tweet along. How about you, Peter?
Nice, quiet weekend at home, and I'm gonna build myself. Well, that's a bit grand.
Some kneecaps.
I'm gonna fit some stuff in my cupboard so I can put my clothes away after moving to the house. So exciting times.
Yeah. I hope there's more Rylan in our lives next week, but I seriously doubt it.
You're 100% right. I'm disappointed because he was a breath of fresh air. But we'll see. So anyway, so big love to Matthew. He's in Lisbon, having an amazing time. So, and then next week he's moving into his flat. So we might have him on the air. I don't think it's for sure, is it?
I think it's a no.
It's a no. So it's what, two warbling 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, warbling.
Blimey.
Yeah, thick bis.
I prefer that. So yeah, tune in next week for more thick bis. And because have a lovely week, everyone.
We are your friends.
See ya.
Bye.
Hang on.